Hey guys, welcome to Get Busy Watching. I'm your host, Honest Dan. Let's talk movies. Feels good to be doing more comprehensive reviews again, and what a way to come back. Okay, so in case you missed it, I have seen the original Witches for the very first time during this past Halloween month. I really liked it. But then again, how can you go wrong with Jim Henson, right? The makeup, Angelica Houston, some of the darker imagery, the puppet work, it was wonderful. Imperfect, of course, but you know what? I dug it. Highly recommended if you've never seen it. However, it should be noted that the only reason I knew about the original film in the first place, it's not because I knew about it since I was a child. Quite the contrary, I actually didn't know about it until very recently. This year, in fact. I saw an article online that said The Witches was getting a reboot. At the time, I had no idea what The Witches was. Never heard of it. While the internet collectively lost its mind, I shrugged and went on with my day. But then Halloween month happened, I saw the movie, and that's when I lost my mind as well. Took me a fair minute, but I shared concern with everyone else about the eventual release of this remake. But is it as bad as we all thought? This is my honest opinion of The Witches. After losing his parents in a car crash, a young boy goes to live with his grandma. After a scare from a witch, he and his grandma leave town for a luxury hotel for safety, only to find themselves surrounded by a coven of witches led by their leader, the Grand High Witch, who plans to turn every child in the world into a mouse. It's not a good movie. Especially when compared to the original, it falls really short. It has its merits here and there, but no, it doesn't work. The movie starts off incredibly weak, with Chris Rock narrating. Now, before anyone starts freaking out, I have nothing against Chris Rock. In fact, if anything, I'm really happy to see that he's got something of a comeback kicking in, with him being in Fargo and what have you. But when he's narrating a kid's movie, you just know that he's going to tap into that silly, fast-talking voice of his. I have two problems with that. One, for as dark as the rest of the movie can get, he just feels so out of place. I would swear to God this was a spin-off of Everybody Hates Chris. Problem number two, I loathe narrations in general. 99 out of 100 times when movies do this, it's completely unnecessary. The visuals usually do a fine enough job of explaining the situation, and if the director is good at his job, then chances are the actors' expressions will be enough to convey what's going on in their heads. It's hand-holding that neither the adults nor the children need. In fact, I would consider it downright insulting to a child's intelligence. And lo and behold, the visuals do a fine enough job of explaining the situation. You see that car flipped over. You see that boy sitting on the couch processing his grief. Shut up, narrator. We get it. But I do have to give credit here. This is something that surpasses the original. When the boy's parents die, it does have an impact on him. I feel like in the original, it's barely acknowledged. But here, it takes its time and lets the emotions settle in. I really commend that. What I didn't much agree with was how the grandmother kept egging the poor kid to have fun or to cheer up, basically. And she even goes so far as to say that she doesn't feel sorry for him. What kind of grandmother would freaking say that to a child who lost his parents? By the way, she lost a daughter too, but sidestepping that, this is the kind of situation where this kid needs a child psychologist, not to dance to Reach Out, I'll Be There by Four Tops.
No one tells you how to mourn. And when someone says, move on, you take their hand and say, my choice.
Before anyone says anything, no, I'm not saying that I want to see therapy sessions with this kid. I'm simply saying that the grandma's character would benefit from being more sensitive and let him mourn at his own pace. And I can see someone telling me, There is a passage of time going on, and Grandma's just tired of letting this kid let life go by. And the movie does say that she is a tough woman who isn't afraid to tell it like it is. But that just feels like weak sauce to me. It's still unlikable, and any rational, compassionate person would have a more delicate approach. Then we get our first taste of witchy goodness. I'm actually kind of having a flashback to the compare and contrast argument when it came to miniseries It and the recent theatrical It's. The arguments being that the Tim Curry Pennywise was like a legitimately funny clown, and Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise was very clearly a monster. I saw the original miniseries It. I don't really agree with that statement, but the argument applies here. The witches in the original they looked human. Their disguises were that effective, but the witches here are very clearly monsters, from the way they move, the way they talk, and to a lesser degree, the way they look. I mean, look at this witch right here. She has a CGI snake crawling around on her arm. How much more obvious can you get? I mean, granted, Grandma does address this, but that doesn't make it good. Due to this witch sighting, Grandma decides to pack everything up and go stay at a luxury hotel, not realizing that she's walking into a convention of witches, led by, bar none, the best part of this movie, the Grand High Witch, played by Anne Hathaway. Now, make no mistake, I was concerned, like everyone else was, when she was cast as the role. She's not going to be better than Anjelica Huston, we all thought. I mean, she brought such class and elegance and her own flavor of comedy to the role. Well, we weren't wrong. Hathaway is definitely not Huston. But then again, I don't think that was the goal. Clearly, Hathaway is going for a very animated performance, lots of shouting, but she brings her own her own take to the role. She is very threatening, and she is actually quite funny. God, and those extendo arms of hers, the way the bones crunch and the way they zigzag. I mean, I don't know if it was necessary to animate her nose in such a way when she's sniffing out the hero boy. Seriously, does this kid have a name? Anyway, I do miss this kind of terror in kids' movies. It's so fun. I will also give credit that Jazeer Bruno is a much better kid actor than Jason Fisher was. No offense, sir. I mean, okay, to be fair, it's not like kid characters are always written with the most nuance, so Fisher's performance was likely a result of the writing and directing, not because he was without talent. Don't quote me on that, I cannot verify this. But Bruno's character felt like he was a real kid. He was allowed to have emotions and have a more fleshed out personality. It's not like he's some great child protagonist or anything, but it just works better than the original. The transformations are lame, not at all as scary as the original, but if there's anything that's really off-putting, it's giving Mary the Mouse a character. Yeah. Remember that pet mouse that the little kid was carrying around for most of the movie? It's a character this go around. She was once human, turned into a mouse by a witch, and now she's a pet. Your first question is probably, well, why did she wait until now to say something? Bad writing. Okay, to be less mean about it, it's because she says a talking mouse doesn't always have a favorable reaction. But here's my thing. I feel like kids dream about having legit conversations with their pets all the time. If there was a more perfect person to come out to and be open with, it would be a kid. But fine, if she's gonna be a character, is she at least a good one? No, she's bland. Yes, she saves the hero boy from getting killed by the witches when he turns into a mouse himself, but after that, she's just another set of lines. More money poured into special effects. Take her out of the movie, nothing's missing. Even as far as having another kid-turned-mouse character to interact with, the protagonist still has Bruno, the other kid that was turned into a mouse. I don't know. I feel like Mary's pretty useless. From this point on, we hit pretty similar notes to the original. We gotta steal the potion that turns kids into mice, gotta sneak into the Grand High Witch's room to get it, but here's an interesting beat that I found to be both superior and inferior to the original. The connection between Grandma and the Grand High Witch. Now from this point on, there are going to be some spoilers, so if you want to avoid that, jump to this time code. In the original, it was implied that Grandma and the Grand High Witch are connected in some way, but they do absolutely nothing with that, making it pretty useless information. In this one, it's revealed that the Grand High Witch was the one who turned Grandma's friend as a child into a chicken, and Grandma was the one that got away. How in blazes the High Witch would be able to recognize Grandma after so long is well beyond me. Now what I love is that the connection is a little more obvious this time, but the reason why I say it's just as bad as the original is, yet again, they do nothing with it. I don't know why. There's no rivalry between these two characters where there obviously should be. When they're having their final confrontation in the Grand High Witch's room, it should have been Grandma who forced the witch to drink that potion, not the kids, as justice for the friend who was turned into a chicken so long ago. This is so frustrating. It's such a missed opportunity. And if things couldn't get any worse, the ending. It's horrible. Okay, so in the original, which is clearly a rush job in of itself, one of the witches survives and rather randomly does the boy a favor by turning him back into a human. In this one, he stays a mouse. He never gets turned back into a human. So, we're gonna touch upon this subject again in a second, but I wanted to highlight that Bruno's parents refuse to take him back, simply on the basis that he is a mouse, and they are not mice people. Yeah. An entire set of parents abandons their child because he's a mouse. Unconditional parental love is a joke. But then the conversation of a mouse's lifespan crops up, and things get awkward real fast. This kid is going to live a fraction of his life now because he's a mouse. He is going to age far faster. In just a few years, he's going to be an old man, probably just as old as his grandma. He is 100% going to die sooner than she will. But it's played off like it's charming and sweet. Are you kidding me right now? This is depressing. But wait, there's more.
But I'm not done yet.
Hero Boy and Grandma somehow amassed an army of children to essentially wage war against the remaining witches that exist in the world. I'm sorry, where are the parents? Are these kids being brainwashed? You are literally sending these children to battle against literal child killers. What the... Who wrote this? Who wrote this?
Are you kidding me? Who do I blame here? How did this happen?
I can't with this ending. Overall, this is not a great follow-up to the original. Yes, some things are improved. The kid protagonist is better than the original. Some of the emotions are allowed to play out naturally for the most part. And some things do stand on their own, like Anne Hathaway as the Grand High Witch, and some of the more scary visuals in general. But far too much is inferior, and does very little to justify its own existence other than a cynical cash grab. And that ending, dear God, who greenlit that? Is it worth it? I suppose some aspects are, but not as a whole package. I don't recommend paying for this on demand. Definitely don't see this in theaters when it eventually comes out. Save it for a rental. And definitely lower your expectations if you're a fan of the original. My honest rating for The Witches, a weak 3 out of 5. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy out there. Please wear a mask if you go out. Hope to see you soon.